Yes, team. Welcome to Chasing Green Arrows. We are celebrating the fact that the season has now started and we're not in pre-season mode. We're in Game Week 2 mode. Welcome to everyone in the chat. Do drop your comments. And hello to Big Man Backer. Fresh trim, mate. Looking good.
Hi, Johnny. Hello, welcome to all the listening viewers. Yeah, it's been a while, man. I mean, we were recording streams and doing our live streams like every other day. Like it feels surreal. So it feels a long time since I've seen this lovely face of yours. So it feels surreal to be back on the stream. I'm actually really excited. After what 10 days, I think, since we've last spoken.
It's been a
Seems like an
while.
eternity.
It's been a while because, yeah, as you say, it was every couple of days, wasn't it? So, how was Game Week 1 for you? I mean, like me, you were on a bit of a
Yeah.
stinker, but then you had Pedro Porro on the Monday, which came,
Yeah.
that 9 points was massive.
Yeah, I actually checked our teams on Monday morning, and I think we had close to identical points, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, that was the difference. I think you had Sun and Solanke had Poro, and yeah, Poro did really well. So ultimately, that proved to be the difference. But despite that, I think I ended up on 58 points, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken,
and me on
57, 58,
49,
something like that.
and me on
Yeah.
49, and Poro got 9. So
Yeah.
yeah, I guess that's a difference maker right there.
That's a difference maker.
How do
But
you feel
even
about that? Because
58,
it's
if
it's a
58.
marathon, not a sprint, right? I really don't mind that I got 49. I mean, some people are completely caught up on their Game Week 1 score, and I don't quite understand why. Like there's 37 more of these to go.
Caught up in a good way or a bad way? I mean, are you trying to say
Bad.
that they're
Seeing people
okay?
very disappointed with their 55 points. And I'm like, dude, it's
Yeah.
fine. Keep calm and carry on.
I mean, at the end of the day, in hindsight, of course, some of the players that I picked, they don't exactly look optimal.
Yeah.
But to be very honest, I don't. I've sort of over the course of the years, especially since I've gotten more and more into content creation, I am at peace once the deadline is over. So as
Yeah.
long as I've made the right decisions with the info available,
Hmm.
I think I've done everything in my control to do well, right?
Yeah.
Now, if the Eze goal gets disallowed for no no right or reason, if
Yeah.
Bruno misses a couple of sitters, I mean, if Quansah gets hooked after 45 minutes,
Yeah.
if Newcastle get a guy sent off after what 20-30 minutes,
Yeah.
these are things not in my control. I can only laugh, right? So I'm not gonna
Yeah.
get I'm not gonna, let's say, uh, get caught up in the fact that it's not been an amazing start of the season. I still don't think it's been bad. 57, 58, it's still fine.
No.
And as you mentioned, mate, it's a marathon. It's 37 week season, and to be very honest, I don't think at the end of the season we'll even be thinking about these kind of things.
No. We can all
I
we
mean,
can
I
all look at
won't
our
be.
team and go, if buts and maybes. But as you say, there's no
Yeah,
point doing that because
yeah,
we're all going to have that. You're right about Eze. You're right about the Newcastle
yeah,
defense. I could say similar for Son or Solanke. Yeah, these things happen, but we're going to
yeah.
have a lot of this to come. That's what FPL does.
So
Sometimes your players score and perhaps they shouldn't have scored. It
yeah.
works both ways.
So a lot of people are disappointed. For example, with the concert decision, right?
Yeah,
They're of the opinion that they made a wrong decision, and
it was the
he's
right
dropped in
decision.
price, etc., etc., etc. Uh,
Bad outcome.
but but irrespective, I mean, it's in Game Week 37, you won't be relenting on the fact that you had a defender who dropped in price in Game Week 1. I
True.
mean, it just happened to be the case. What was in our control was predicting that he'll start. He did start. I mean, how often do you see a defender getting a center back, especially getting hooked at
Yeah.
halftime? It does not happen, right? So it was a case of rough outcome. I think it made sense at the time. I'm not completely, let's say, mad at myself for making the decision. In fact, I think if I had it in my control without the knowledge of hindsight, I still think I would have made the same decision like you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm right there. Like, speaking of Quansah, we'll speak about his replacements in a sec. No, let's not go into Quansah, guys. We'll get to Quansah in a minute. There is a poll up. It's funny. Who would have thought it? Here we are, midweek between Game Week 1 and 2, and the most talked about player in FPL is a 4.5 million centre back that's probably not starting on Saturday. 75 of you have been in the poll, and look, fortunately, over half of you don't own Quansah. It's not an issue. From those that own him, the majority have sold. 29% of you have sold him. 17% have kept him. Interesting. He obviously dropped in price, big man. I guess we should get straight to it, shouldn't we? Have you sold him, yes or no?
So over the course of the week, I was fairly set that I'm going to keep him because I had Dunk and Ezri Konsa to cover. So
Yeah.
I didn't really have to sell him. But as soon as the price drop got closer, the temptation to sell them, of course, I mean, naturally it increased. So much so that, I was up till, I think I was up till 4 a.m. last night.
Wow.
And the price change actually occurs around 6 a.m. my time. I was up till 4 a.m., contemplating whether or not to make that decision. Because, when it's inevitable, you do tend to get tempted to make the transfer. I didn't. I held off. But I was close to making it, but I didn't eventually.
Yeah, okay. You still might.
I just thought, no, not at all.
You can't now.
I mean, he's dropped now.
But you might, but not this game week. But it might be a transfer. You have 2 moves next week. You might use one of them on Quansah. There's a chance he starts though.
I don't think I will. I don't think I will because my reason for keeping him was because I had a decent, adequate enough defense to cover. For example, I have Trent. Now, the big assumption here is that Porro will be fine. That's the big assumption that I'm making.
Yes.
But if Porro is fine, if Trent is fine, then I have Dunk and Quansah. That I can just play one of Dunk or Quansah every week. I don't really need the Liverpool Quansah, right? It's fine. I can just let him rot on the bench. Of course, it's not going to be ideal because he's going to keep dropping in price. And by the time I eventually sell him, he might be 4.3. But I hope now that he's dropped in price, some of the sales will probably stem down. I don't think he'll probably fall at the rate that he was last night because people don't have, let's say, realistic alternatives available at 4.4 million. So that's where I'm at. Where are you at, Matt? Did you sell him? Go on, spill the beans.
I did. I didn't want to. Okay. And do you know what I thought at the start? When I looked at it, even yesterday morning, I looked at it and went, he needs 25,000 managers to sell him. That won't happen tonight. And the rate it was going, it didn't look like it was going to happen last night. And then as evening kicked in, it was like, oh my God, Quansah's dropping in price tonight. I've got to make my mind up tonight. And like you, I was deliberating late night, yes or no. I thought I was going to have another day or two to think about this decision. And I didn't. My hand was forced. Now, the reason I did sell... And just to caveat this with, I think there's still a good chance he starts on Saturday, by the way. I rate him at 40% likely to start and Konate 60. It's a 60-40. It's not a foregone conclusion that Quansah is benched. Although I'm rating Konate will just get the nod. The reason I sold him, if I had your bench big man, if I had Quansah and Dunk, I wouldn't have sold him. I think you made the right shout. And I think you would agree I made the right shout by selling because I own Barco. And I also own Johnson, who will start for Ipswich this game week, I think. But he has Man City. He has Man City away. Yeah. Like, that's minus points for Johnson, potentially.
I think the decision was kind of taken out of your hands, Johnny. I think it was obvious. You had to sell him. No, you can't keep him with that defense, man. No way.
I can't. And actually, I got quite excited about who I was buying as well. And now you're going to think we're not going to tell big man who I've bought yet. No one knows in the chat. When we show you the 4 replacements, you've got to guess which player I've bought.
Johnny, all I know is without doing any further research, all I know is I saw a tweet from you on X where you mentioned that you wanted to go with Rico, but because you had a threadbare defense to cover, you didn't want to sort of take the risk with him, which made sense. But again, all of these answers, all of these questions, all of these answers, they come down to a word which we use, very frequently, and it's team specific, right?
Yeah.
The answer to this is team specific.
Yeah. Like for you, it was the wrong shout. For me, it was the right shout. And, it's the same decision there. It's do we sell that player? And it worked for you and not for me, or vice versa.
Yeah, exactly. Because, I want to keep hold of that transfer. I believe that transfer could be very valuable later, especially with Nkunku on my team. I don't know how long he's going to be an option for. Similarly, with I want Salah by game week 4 or 5 for Saka. That's a move I'm looking at, and I want to be in a position where I have as many transfers as possible. So just when I looked at these high priority transfers and compared them with using it on a 4.5 million defender, it didn't make sense to me, especially when I had an adequate defense to cover. But if someone is down to 2 defenders, then that decision is taken out of his hands, right? So he has to act, and I think Johnny did the right decision. But
Yeah,
anyway,
I hope
let's move
so.
on to the alternatives. Let's
Yeah,
discuss the
let's see those
alternatives, and then you
Quansah.
can reveal who your new signing is. Your first signing of the season, Johnny. Who would have thought it
I
would be
know.
4.5 million defender?
It's one of these
Yeah.
4 guys. We'll do a poll in the chat, and you can name which one you think it might be.
Well, it's not Lewis, that's for sure. I am sure you wouldn't have gone Masdora either. So it has to be Robinson or Dunk. Now I don't know which way we've gone.
I'm not saying, yeah, I'm not saying. What I would say though,
Probably
big man,
Robinson.
I'm
Probably
glad you're
Robinson, I
seeing
think.
my tweets because the algorithm is clearly working in my favor. The fact that we are tagged in the same post for chasing green arrows every week, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But look, just when you see those tweets, big man, it really makes a difference if you hit that like button, because just by hitting that heart, and I don't know if you do, you know, the algorithm works in many mysterious ways, and having one of the biggest FPL Twitter accounts out there, like my posts on the regular, would mean a lot, mate. So do hit the like button.
And I'll use this opportunity to ask people who are watching the stream to hit the
Yeah.
like button as well, and to subscribe to the channel if they haven't already.
Seamless, very good. So yeah, one of these 4 do get voting. Let's just go through them individually. Let's start from Lewis Dunk on the right and work backwards. You've got Dunk. Dunk's fixtures, Man United and Arsenal aren't great, but then it's a nice couple of games, and they went to Goodison Park and kept a clean sheet. I think they're going to be a really useful defence. Now, Herzler, the manager, has a really good reputation of clean sheets from his last club. I think Lewis Dunk, who offers a bit of goal threat, is a really good option.
I think he is. The only sort of caveat here is that he sort of went off early in the last game.
Why was that?
I mean, we don't have any concrete news yet, and I guess that's probably good. No news is probably good news, I think, because had it been anything serious, we would have heard it. Apparently, he didn't play much in preseason, which is why he was still building up to fitness. And that's one of the reasons where he came off for Webster. I think it was around the 76, 77-minute mark. So I assume he'd be fit. I think he's a good option. Not necessarily for this week or next week, but primarily for game week 5 and 6 when... game week 4 and 5 when Brighton are playing Nottingham Forest and Ipswich at home. I think those fixtures are brilliant.
Yeah, nice. Mazraoui, I still can't work out if he's going to be first choice right back or not. Like when Shaw exists, does Dalot play right back or Mazraoui play right back? Maybe Ten Hag doesn't quite know yet, but he did get a couple of bonus points. He won 6 of his 7 duels. Look good, and maybe United are going to be a bit better. I think the fixtures are wrong though. Man United have Brighton up next, not Forest at home. So I don't know who.
The Brighton fixture is missing, but the other 2 are fine. I mean, United are playing Liverpool at home and Southampton away. So yeah, just the Forest fixture is wrong. It's actually Brighton away. I don't like the fixtures, to be very honest. I mean, irrespective of minutes, I just don't like the fixtures. I think Brighton will score. I think Liverpool will score. I'm not sure about Southampton, but the first 2 games, I'm pretty sure United won't keep a clean sheet. So just does not make sense to me.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Rico Lewis, I think these fixtures are right. Robinson's are wrong. The Burnley, I don't know who Burnley are meant to be there. But yeah, anyway, Rico Lewis. A few in the community have gone here. What's your take on Rico Lewis, big man? Because clearly, if we're looking at game week 2 points, he's probably going to get 6. But game week 3, game week 4, Kyle Walker could very easily come in and take his place. This is a big minutes risk, this one.
I think those who've signed him, they would potentially argue that the floor is 6 points, not the ceiling.
Yeah. Flair. And do you know what? It's a great point. But those that signed Rico Lewis this week have sold Quansah, and they've only made a transfer because they've got no good bench options. If you're signing Rico Lewis this week, it's because you need him to start every game, which is concerning because it's Rico Lewis and Pep.
So so there are 2 kind of managers who I know who have bought Rico Lewis. There are some who have risked going Rico Lewis despite being in a position where they had an adequate defense to cover, like me, right? Yep. So they've still gotten Rico Lewis.
Which I like. If I was you, I like that.
Yeah. I mean, I could have made the transfer. My reasons for not doing it are mentioned earlier, where I do still think there are more higher priority transfers to make.
I agree. Yeah.
But I think in their case, it makes more sense. But I definitely agree with you. If someone has a week bench, then going Lyrical Lewis does not really make sense, because Kyle Walker does exist and he can easily come in the next week. I would expect Lewis to get the Ipswich game. I'm sort of confident he's going to play here. But after that, he becomes a risk, right? So unless you've completely, let's say, if you've completely decided on this particular window where you will wildcard, and you know for sure that you want Lewis as a pick by then as a starter, then I think it makes sense. But if you are playing the long-term game, then Lewis is not one for you.
Yeah, okay. I agree. And I need to play the long-term game, and I have a rubbish
And you've
bench,
got Robinson now. Go on, Gianni. Just don't be a tease. Just reveal it.
So annoyingly, I couldn't go Lewis, who was the guy I guess I wanted. But no, I've signed Robinson based on the fixtures, which aren't accurate there. Let me just tell you Robinson's fixtures. I'll load my FPL team.
Yeah, Leicester at home, Ipswich away, West Ham at home, Newcastle at home. I remember them by heart.
Very good. Yeah. And three or four of them, by the way, are at home, and two of the next two are both newly promoted teams. So Fulham aren't the best defensive team in the league, but at home they're not bad. And Robinson gallops forward for fun. He was on 2 bonus points. He was on an 8-pointer at Old Trafford at 85 minutes gone. He was very close to getting an 8-pointer. We like Robinson, and I think he's the best option for those looking to sell Quansah.
I think it's really clear in my head that if someone was selling Quansah, then I do think that Robinson was the best replacement. So I think you've made the right call there. I am still not a huge fan of the Fulham defense. I still think they'll concede in most games, but Anderson signing is a positive at least. That's actually big for them.
It was that news that made me go there last night. I was like, oh, do I risk one? And then I saw the Anderson leak and was like, from the Athletic, and I thought, that's enough for me to go to Fulham. He's a class centre-back and he'll improve them. It'll be, you'd think, Bassey and Anderson instead of Diop and Bassey.
Yeah, probably. And he's very attacking as well. So you don't necessarily have to, only look at him for clean sheets. He can get the odd assist here or there. So he's a decent pick for his price. He can do well.
He scored 2 own goals last year, which was a bit rubbish. I was looking at some of the numbers last night, obviously overthinking it as I was making my transfers. So guys, let us know if you've gone Robinson in the chat. 56% of you were right. Should have gone Wan-Bissaka, says fella. Behave. All right, there's our Quansah replacements chat. Guys, if you're watching this now and you've gone, I want to sell Quansah, but yeah, it might just be too late. Personally, if I had him now, I would be just hoping he starts, because there's no one you can buy at 4.4 and there's no one at 4 million that you'd really want. I would just risk it and hope he starts. How do you rate his chances of starting, big man? I put him on 40% likely. I think most would probably say 20, 30%.
I would go with 25. Yeah, I don't think he's going to start. I just think the fixture is sort of suited to Konate more than Quansah.
Yeah.
And if he puts in a good performance again, then Quansah is basically a non-option till basically the time Konate gets rotated or he gets injured.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Okay, let's have a look. When we're on this discussion, let's just look at the expected goals conceded chart from the game week just gone. So we don't have great data pools at the moment. It's so fixture dependent, and Southampton top of the charts, but they played against 10 men. So we've got to take this with a pinch of salt. But the reason I put Mazraoui on the list was I was quite impressed with United at 0.44. I think Brighton at 0.45 is super impressive, knowing they went to Goodison Park, which isn't the easiest place to go. Usual suspects.
And the manager has the Brighton manager has had a success.
Yeah.
With the defensive data in the past as well. I remember his St. Pauli team. I think they were highest for clean sheets last season.
Exactly that. Yeah,
so he's done well.
He's really good at 2 things. Well, lots of things, but 2 of the things in terms of FPL, the new Brighton manager, his teams keep clean sheet and his number 9s get a lot of goals. Like those 2 things are quite apparent from looking at his last couple of seasons. Anything stick out here? I mean, Villa conceded 2.46 to West Ham. I know there's a penalty in there at 0.78, but still, that's not great for those that like Quansah, for example.
I think it's just 1 week of data set should not exactly put you off, investing or buying any of these attacks or defenses. So, for example, when you look at Fulham's 2.43, but that does not necessarily mean that you don't buy Robinson, right? I mean, it's just 1 week of data.
And also, you look at the individual games and go, oh, yeah, okay, you can see why, because Man United had 1 or 2 massive chances. Bruno had over 1 XG himself. And then, of course, was it the Garnacho miss at the end? That would have been a really, really high chance. Anyone you're really impressed by here, though, that we've not mentioned? I mean, it's difficult to say. I thought Spurs were an interesting one for Porro. Porro could have very easily had a 15-pointer.
Yeah.
But
I mean, they were all over Leicester for 60 minutes. You were there at the game.
Yeah, it was just that last. What? So Spursy. As soon as Leicester scored, the momentum completely changed, and Leicester looked like they could have won it late on. But until that point, it was non-existent, and Spurs were really comfortable. So I expect Spurs to continue to concede, and I don't actually expect Leicester to score many goals.
I actually liked Solanke from what I saw.
Yeah.
Despite the blank, he looked very, very integral to the way they were playing. In fact, Son was a bit wide and didn't
Too
exactly
wide.
look very threatening. Yeah, I mean, there were 1 or 2 chances, but he sort of fluffed his touch. And I thought Solanke was the guy to sort of go for. And I think he will be a very good asset this season at his price. And what was encouraging was that not only did he get chances, he also played like 90 minutes, which is big, considering that there were certain doubts over his fitness. That was really encouraging. So for someone like you,
every other attacker got subbed off. They made 6 substitutions because of the Bentancur head injury, and every player that played attacking got switched. Even Son came off 85 minutes or 80 minutes or whatever, but Solanke got the 90.
Yeah, so that was encouraging to see. I hope Porro is fine from that fixture. I'm not sure, but from what we hear, he should be okay. But that's that is based on nothing concrete as such. It's just a hunch.
I couldn't believe he didn't go down. I don't know if this was picked up on TV cameras, but for a good 3 minutes, he was going end to end, hobbling. It was like he didn't even want the ball. He said to one of his teammates, "Don't pass it to me." At one point, I was like, "Go down." And then he hobbled around the pitch. But you've seen the post-match stuff. He's there in photos without an ice pack and stuff. I think you're right. I think it will just be a sprain rather than any sort of, ligament damage, which it looked like when you saw it. But I think he'll probably just shake it off and be fine. One to monitor, though. Ange Postecoglou will tell us. He's one of the best at that. And he'll be asked about Porro, and Postecoglou will give a very accurate answer. So the press conference news there will be key. Guys, do hit those buttons. There's over 300 of you in the chat. Thank you for joining. If you're new around here, you know what to do. If you're not, you also know what to do. There's another button there you can hit the like button. Where to next, big man? We've done our chat on Quansah. What were the other 2 big topics we wanted to get to?
Nkunku. I mean, why don't you get us started as a Chelsea fan?
I mean, I can't even talk about it. We need a whole podcast to talk about their recruitment. I still think Nkunku is going to be integral, but let's see what minutes he gets on Thursday. If he starts, don't be too put off. If he gets 60 minutes, that's fine. He'll start again at the weekend. Sure, if he gets 90, you're going to be worried against Wolves. But I expect Nkunku to get lots of starts, but lots of early subs. And if you're happy with that, because he's playing really well and he's getting points, a bit like when we buy Jota, we go, we're only going to get 75 minutes, but he's always going to get me something. And Nkunku could become that. At the moment, he's not. And at the moment, we've got to be wary. We still don't know real play. I don't expect him to play wide left much at all. I could see him playing number 9 instead of Jackson. I could see him playing number 10 instead of Enzo. So let's keep our eyes on that position. We've got to give him a couple of weeks, though. He's too good to ignore, potentially too good to ignore. So I think knee-jerk selling him now would be naive. Give him a couple of weeks. Let's judge it in game week 3-4.
What are your thoughts on Enzo playing as the 10 and Nkunku playing on the left? Do you think it's just a one-off experiment against City to gain more control? Do you think it's likely to continue in the easier fixtures? Where do you see Felix fitting in? All these kind of questions I'm sure a lot of listeners want to know.
Yeah, it was definitely a strategy for that particular fixture. It was Maresca going up against Pep. He knows the system. He knows what could be good. And let's not forget, Chelsea clocked the same XG as Man City in that game. On another day, that game's a draw. We just didn't convert our chances. Jackson had a big one at 1-0 down. Playing Palmer narrow and Nkunku wide, or playing both of them wide when they both want to be more narrow, and playing Enzo as a 10, I don't think we'll see much of. I think it was a one-off, and I wouldn't be surprised to see something very different. I think Neto has been bought because Maresca wants to play with wide men, and we will often see between Mudryk, Madueke, Neto, probably those 3, we'll always see, I think, one of them on the pitch and at times 2 of them on the pitch. Palmer's position is going to be really interesting. Does he play him as the 10 or does he play him on the right but inverting, which is what he did a lot last year. But a lot of that conversation comes down to what is he going to ask from his fullback? Because when Reece James is fit, and by the way, James is back fit. He's in the squad for Thursday. He's in the Europa League squad. Whether or not he plays on Thursday is another thing. But I want to know if we're going to have a right back that bombs up and down. And I don't think we will, which makes me think we're going to need a wide man that stays wide. And that's not Cole Palmer. So we could see Cole Palmer in the 10. And we could then see out-and-out wingers like Pedro Neto out wide, which I think would be good for the Chelsea shape. Where does that leave Nkunku? Potentially the 9 still. The chat of Osimhen has dipped a little bit. If Osimhen doesn't go through, Nkunku 9 could be a gift in FPL. I don't see Jackson in the first choice 11 for long.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think Nkunku is fine for potentially the next 1 or 2 games, but he's one who's basically sort of on the wait and watch list because I'm sort of still curious to see at what minutes he's getting, what time does he get subbed, what impact Felix has on him. So I think another sort of one of the main reasons I want to save a transfer this week was so that I can potentially deal with Nkunku later because I can probably see it as a problem that will come sometime soon. In fact, I think in game week 4 or 5 or probably by game week 6, I think I'll probably sell him for someone like Mbeumo. I just like Mbeumo too much, and now that Tony is likely to leave, Mbeumo becomes a really good alternative. I just think Mbeumo at like 0.5 more is just a better pick simply because of the security minutes and penalties. And I think I'm going to go there in, let's say, a week's time.
Oh, Sally, I forgot to mention Felix. Geez, another signing that, there's so many players, I can't keep up. But yeah, you're right. Felix, again, that could eat into some of Nkunku's minutes. But again, we don't know where they're going to play. We don't know where Felix will be seen. Will he play 10? Will he play off? Felix can even do a job central, ideally as a second striker. But you could say the same for a lot of Chelsea players. They'd rather be a second striker than a 9. And you could say the same for Nkunku too. Even Pedro Neto can play centrally, but you wouldn't want him as your 9. So Chelsea still arguably need to buy a 9. Will they? I'm not so sure. Tony might become available, is available, but might become an option again, although that rumour's died down. And we don't know about Osimhen. So let's watch this space. But yeah, Mark says Neto, Osimhen, Felix with Palmer in behind. Well, that doesn't include Nkunku. And I'm telling you, Mark, I'm pretty sure Nkunku is going to be central to Maresca's plans. And I still don't think, I'm not telling you he's going to be the best FPL option because he's going to see reduced minutes. But I think he'll be central to the plans and he'll be in the first 11.
How long do you sort of foresee yourself keeping him with the current info?
The current info is enough for me to hold him. It's more the future info in terms of performances and minutes that would worry me. If I keep seeing 60-minute subs, then he'll be out my team really quick because he's not a Jota. He's not a Jota where I go, I can give you I know you're going to get 75, but you'll get me a goal in that time. And Nkunku's not that player yet. So I think there's a very good chance I'll end up selling him because we're going to keep seeing 60, 70 minutes. And then it'll probably be a wildcard sell, to be fair, or he becomes Salah. But for him to become Salah, I'm going to need to sell Haaland. And again, I don't know if I want to do that. So let's watch. But I've also got Son as a potential make weight to jump on, say, a Foden. So I don't know. My loose strategy in terms of guaranteed players I'm selling, the only one I think I know I'm selling in attack is Son, probably game week 3 or 4. But let's see. I'm still not 100% what direction I move.
Which way are you eyeing up for Son in game week 3 or 4? That's actually very interesting because a lot of Son owners will be in a very similar boat because they must have seen him play against Leicester. He wasn't really as threatening. Let's say if he blanks again against Everton, then he may become a potential problem, especially at his price. So what are you looking at?
I mean, Newcastle away and Arsenal at home are 2 tough fixtures. I don't expect many goals from Spurs, and I have Solanke anyway. So the plan was game week 3 to move Son on. Salah's an option now, especially now I've sold Quansah, but I'm going to need money there. So Nkunku down to an enabler and Son up to Salah is an option. I also originally had in my mind that I wouldn't want more than Haaland. I always want more than Haaland. Owning Haaland in FPL isn't enough if you want to cover Man City attack because the whole bloody game owns him anyway. So when Man City score big, you don't see any benefits. So my plan, as you probably know, big man, was always going to be Foden. But actually, Foden and De Bruyne are either, they're both 9.5 now. We've never seen them at the same price. Game week 3, I know it feels silly because game week 2 is the fixture you really want, Man City, but I'm not sure Foden's ready for 90. I do want to play Son versus Everton, and I want to give another game to just watching that City attack with De Bruyne positions. But game week 3,
And
they
you
go
don't
to
want to
West
take a
Ham.
hit.
And I definitely don't take a hit. And I might need 2 transfers. So game week 3, it's West Ham. Game week 4, it's Brentford. It's not a bad time to jump on Man City.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Could be. I mean, as long as you nail their expected minutes, it should be fine.
With Foden, I'll be safe. De Bruyne is the concern with X minutes, I think. But Foden, I think I'm going to get 90, 90, 90 from game week 3. Just don't know if I get it game week 2.
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad shout, actually. I think that's a good shout. Just hope he gets like close to, let's say, 30 minutes in this week. And if he does, then he should be fine for game week 3, I would suspect.
Yeah, he got 45, didn't he, in game week 1? He came on at half. Was it half time he came on against Chelsea? No, it was just, was it 30 minutes he got?
30 minutes, yeah.
So maybe he's on for a 60 this week. Gundogan coming back is interesting. I don't think it changes X minutes massively for either of those two, but yeah it's definitely interesting. And look, Man City are short. We're talking about a Man City that need a wide forward as well, probably. And they haven't got an Alvarez replacement. If Haaland's injured, we're going to see Foden false 9. And I like that very much. The games Haaland doesn't start, which inevitably he'll start all the Premier League games if he's fit, but the other games, Foden will be false 9 again. They won a league title without a recognised number 9 because Aguero was injured. They played Foden there and they won a league title. So, yeah, Foden's going to be great again this year, guys. 100%. And if Haaland gets injured, the first thing I'll do will be buy Foden.
Without a doubt. I think that's sort of picks itself. Anyway, moving on. Haaland triple captain, Gianni. That's our third topic of discussion.
Oh, okay.
I see this being discussed quite a bit in the community, so I thought I'd raise this. Where do you stand on this? It's not the worst idea, is it?
I really hate it. What are you doing?
You hate it?
Actually doing? Yeah, like, look, Haaland might bang, great. But this whole chat of we're not getting as many double game weeks. Firstly, we're still getting enough double game weeks to use your chips on the doubles. And secondly, other stuff can come up which give us more double game weeks. The Queen died, we got more double game weeks. There was heavy snow, we got more double game weeks. Things can happen, but even without anything happening, we're still getting more double game weeks. I don't think Man City are up and running yet. They haven't clicked. They don't fully get to that gear for a few months. Man City are good and now beat Ipswich, now score goals. But we're nowhere near seeing a fully polished Man City. I mean, that's a bit thin in the squad. We don't even know about Rodri. This isn't the time, guys. I know there's no midweek fixture, which is why people go, oh, I get Haaland 90 minutes. But Haaland usually gets 90 in game week 30 when they've got Champions League on Wednesday. Just hold out. Don't do it.
Yeah, I sort of agree. I just think the point that you made regarding the uncertainty of what might be to come is the one which sort of swings it for me. Because you never know, anything can happen. There's still 37 game weeks of football still to play. There will be other opportunities in the season. Even if, let's assume you say that you'll use the bench boost in the biggest double game week, we still likely to have at least one more double game week apart from that, right? So there will be an opportunity where, let's say, someone can come across as a better option than Haaland this week. I mean, I don't necessarily share the same pessimism as you regarding City. I still think they'll beat Ipswich fairly comfortably. And I would expect Haaland to hit double digits. I think he's going to brace personally. But is that enough for me to jump on the triple captaincy? I'm not so sure. I just like having that.
35% of you are lying. I'm not having it. There's no way 36% of you now are triple captaining. I don't believe you.
I just think
1 in 10, 10% are.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people who are saying they'll triple captain Haaland, I think they'll probably chicken out of it before the deadline.
100%.
Simply because they want to do it in the double game week. So it is still worth debating. I don't think it's as clear cut as to outrightly deny it. But I don't think I would personally go ahead with it. I just think I like having the floor of the double game week, and obviously sometimes it often leads to higher ceiling when you hit the right fixtures as well. So yeah, it's not something I would do. There's
also a new chip. I know we don't know what that chip is, but we don't know how that might change the way we play. It's unlikely to be anything that throws triple captaincy up in the air, but you just never know. I'd like more information on that chip when thinking of other chips, and I don't know. I don't like the idea of using any chips early season. I
Before
didn't
we
like
find
Bench Boost.
before we find out before we
Yeah,
find
just
out
that
what the
little bit of
mystery chip
info.
is.
I want to know what I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
I know it shouldn't affect that decision because it's a different chip and you can't play both the same week, but there's still a little bit of information there that I'd like to have.
Yeah.
Which is another reason why I don't like Bench Boost Game Week 1.
Yeah, I mean, the first half of the season is generally all about the first wild card for me, right?
Yeah.
Apart from that, I don't really give enough thought to the chips because they're inevitably played in the blanks and doubles. Yes, they might not be as big as we usually get to see, but like Johnny mentioned, they will still exist. Some of them will still exist, right? And there'll probably be enough for us to deploy our chips over there.
Yeah. Double Pivot in the chat. Guys, do check them out. Awesome new podcast and YouTube channel. So you can click on Double Pivot and hit that subscribe button if you fancy. I pulled some data just on expected assists, big man, just because I thought it was interesting who clocked. Before we show you it, without cheating, guys, which player clocked the highest XA this game week? Put your guesses in the chat before Big Man gives his guess.
Maybe Trent.
Come on, get your guesses.
I remember him creating two big chances. Oh,
one of them was for Jota, and I own both.
One was for Jota, yeah.
That header.
So maybe Trent. Yeah. Who is it, Johnny?
Oh, Mark says Minter. FPL Amateurs close. He says Lampard. Daniel says Maddison. Maddison created a ton. Yeah, it was Trent. Yeah. But Maddison was super close. Look at that, 0.98 versus 1.00.
Wow. Maddison was great. Maddison was great.
And Maddison only played about 75 minutes. In fact, so did Trent. They both came off early. I mean, we both sat here pre-season and said Trent was a permanent fixture in our teams. I think we're both vindicated there. If you can find the extra million on a Gvardiol or a Gabriel or a Saliba, I think Trent is worth it. Look, try and get both in.
I do think there's... I think he looked incredible in the game, and I think there's more points to come from him in the coming weeks. I'm very happy that I started with him.
Yeah, me too. I'm happy I've spent that money. And remember, this is the cheapest Trent's been in a while. I think last season he was 8.5, and I think the year before that he was 7.5. So we're getting a discounted Trent. Minter didn't play much, 0.65. What did you make of his performance?
I think he was really good, and he was subbed due to a concussion protocol, I think, and apparently he's fine for this week, so he should play against Man United. I think he's a good pick. He's a very good differential. I'm sort of low-key jealous of people who've gone there because I think he's going to do really, really well. Yeah. Brighton have signed Rutter as well, Johnny. What do you think on minutes for João Pedro going forward?
Yeah, you're definitely worried, aren't you, if you're a João Pedro owner?
Yeah, but I own him.
Yeah, and I don't think João Pedro is a bad buy because you're going off the early game weeks. Like, I don't expect Rutter to start game week 2 or 3. So you're going to get João Pedro starts game week 2 and 3. And you might get them playing together. I just feel like Danny Welbeck as the number 9 until even Ferguson's fit. He'll probably keep that spot because he's been scoring goals pre-season too. And you think, it'll be Rutter or João Pedro as the 10. Matoma's playing well and is going to play on the left because João Pedro can also play left. But I think Matoma's got that spot on lock. You would hope so. And then at the moment, it's Minter or Adingra on the right. So, yeah, Rutner's an interesting one. I mean, if you spend that sort of money, you think you're going to start them. But they also spent that sort of money on João Pedro. He was their record buy. And I think for a few weeks, you're going to be fine.
Yeah, I mean, I hope I'm fine because I actually don't have an 8th attacker to cover, right? I've gone with 7 attackers and João Pedro is one of them. So it's a bit
go back 4, though, couldn't you? You could go back 4 and bench João Pedro if you needed to in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, but realistically, I don't think that's going to be possible because I have Quansah on my bench, right? So playing a back 4 is going to be difficult for me. So I think if he sort of loses place, I'll probably have to replace him. I'm happy playing him this week, though. I still think he should be fine for the short term at the very least. And if he plays well, then he's just going to keep his spot in the team.
I tell you what 8th attacker I was impressed with, and we've got a question from Sally, start João Pedro or Rodgers. Rodgers played 90. I was so expecting him to get pulled, and I've got Rodgers as my 8th attacker. He picked up some really good positions. He played just behind Watkins, central. Good. Like, Rodgers' fixtures from game week 3 are really good. If he's continuing to get starts, but the manager is showing how much he rates him by hooking off other players like Bailey or whoever and giving him 90. Now, Rodgers has got that level of fitness because he's had a full pre-season, but he did so well in pre-season, 3 goals, 2 assists. He ended the season in the 11 in the Premier League last time out. I think Rodgers is a very good 5 million option for those that maybe can't get or won't get to Ollie Watkins come game week 3.
I think it's an extremely good option, actually. I think the fact that he played 90 minutes, like you mentioned, I think it's significant.
Yeah.
And
Manager wants him on there. He likes him.
Yeah, and Villa's fixtures from game week 3 onwards are really good as well. So people can use him as a rotating option perfectly well. I think he will deliver points in the weeks to come. I'm sort of annoyed I didn't pick him, but then if I did pick him, then I would have had Park on my team. So it's the opportunity cost of having that extra eighth attacker, right? So I'm jealous of owners of Rodgers.
Yeah, I remember seeing your team most of pre-season. You had Rodgers in there, and you had a 4 million defender. And obviously, as deadline approached, we've not discussed this, but yeah, you went for the extra 4.5 defender, which paid off. But then it meant the sacrifice was a 4.5. Who did you go for at 4.5? By the way, did you go Harry Winks or
Harry Winks? Of course, yeah. Harry Winks.
Yeah,
it had to be him.
Yeah, Winksy. He did all right, actually. Played all right. I mean, he's so deep, but you're not going to get points, but that's fine. You get appearance points, which is all you want. Guys, thank you so much for all your questions. Any other big topics before we open the floor? Big man, what about future plans for you? Like I've said, Son is probably going to be my move out, and I don't know if that will go to Salah or a Man City attacker come game week 3 or 4. Forward planning for you, ways of getting Salah in your team are going to be tricky. Does that mean a Haaland sell?
It's tricky. I think I'm not going to sell Haaland, I don't think, because he's still going to be my captain game week 4 when City are playing Brentford at home. So I have no current plans of selling Haaland anytime soon. Having said that, I do plan on potentially moving on Nkunku if he's a problem. If he's fine, then I'm going to keep him. And the front and center of my transfer plans in the weeks to come is going to be Mohamed Salah. I want him in game week 4, and I want to sell Saka before he plays Spurs and City.
Yeah.
So yeah, Saka to Salah in game week 4 is going to be the move. I'll need to find 2.5 million to do it. Yeah. And these 3 transfers are basically going to help me find that 2.5 million.
Yeah, it's the same as me. If I go Son to Salah, I'm just not going to have the same level of free transfers. I could do that in game week 3 with 2 moves though. So mine could be I don't know, Nkunku down to an enabler, and Son up to Salah, or I find 2 million off an Isak. Not great. I could find 2 million off a Gordon. Again, Newcastle's. I don't know how I feel about that. So yeah, we'll watch this space. We've actually got a graphic on Salah and Haaland just to see their fixtures. All pre-season, we spoke about Salah or Haaland. Very few went with both. Did game week 1 tell us that actually squeezing both in makes sense? I mean, they both look very good, and I'd want them both in game week 2 as well. I think those that went both have been instantly rewarded. Will that pay off in the long run, though? I'm not sure.
I don't think so, Gianni. I think managers who picked both, they didn't have at least one of Saka or Trent, right? So they lost out on some points over there as well. I think the real winners have been the teams with Salah, who've gone with Saka.
They captained him as well. Yeah.
Yeah, because so far, I mean, of course, this could all be completely, let's say, blown out of proportion next week when, let's say, if Haaland scores a hat-trick, it may become lopsided in Haaland's favor. But so far, I mean, Salah teams have done well because they've invested, most of them that I know have invested in Trent, Saka, the Arsenal defense, Jota. I mean, all these kind of guys, they have delivered. So, yeah, so far, I think the winners have been teams with Salah and no Haaland.
Do we both look at this graphic, though, and say the reason we need Mo Salah game week 4 isn't just because the fixtures are so good, but it's who do you captain in game week 5 and 6 if it's not Haaland? And game week 5 is definitely Salah captain. Game week 6, I don't know. I don't know who everyone else has got off the top of my head, but you probably don't want to give Haaland the armband away at Newcastle either, do you?
Gianni, Arsenal are playing Southampton at home in game week 6.
But many are selling Saka to get Salah.
That's why I think the wildcard will be popular. That's why I think wildcarding in 6 will be popular. That sort of brings
you buy
me to the next point.
Isak to Havertz.
Yeah. Some Arsenal sort of cover will be needed in game week 6, and I think people will eventually look to wildcard around game week 4, either to buy Salah or in game week 6, either to buy the Arsenal guys. It will work one of the 2 ways, right? That is why game week 4, game week 6 are wildcard windows, which will be popular. I am currently looking at game week 6, possibly if my team needs it. But yeah, let's see where we're at. We'll cross the bridge when we get to it.
Yeah, okay. By the way, it does look like someone in the chat said Barco gone. I'll just check that. But yeah, we have heard the links. Like Barco is heavily linked with a loan to
It's been an
Sevilla.
unmitigated disaster.
Yeah, but doesn't that mean his price is locked if he leaves the game straight away?
That's right.
So we like
that's
that.
like,
We want him to move, want him to leave the game ASAP.
do you? I mean, do you, I assume the reason you picked him is not because you want him to leave the game ASAP. It's because you want him to feature, which he hasn't, right? So it's been a disaster. It's been as bad as Quansah, I think.
It's been I think worse because we know he's not starting. Quansah could still get some minutes. I would say though, guys, Barco, I don't think that's official at all. He's training today. I've just seen someone clip. Barco's not gone, but heavily linked with going. Don't always believe what you read in the chat, Gianni. Check it on Twitter before you read it out. Guys,
So
we will
Fabrizio
answer.
Romano's tweeted Sevilla are confident to get green light soon for
Yeah.
Vladimir Barco to join on loan from Brighton. Barco has accepted to join Sevilla, and talks over loan do not include an option to buy. And they're looking at Cardioglu as the new left back. This is what is written. So yeah, it's pretty much done. If Romano said that it's they're confident it's going to happen in, like, I think the next 1 or 2 days. So yeah, Barco is pretty much done.
Yeah, he is training with Brighton today, though. But yeah, the key for the deal was they didn't want to give Sevilla an option to buy him, which Sevilla wanted, because clearly they see this as a left back for the future. This is a kid that's played under 19s, under 21s for Argentina, and yeah, they have got that left back from Turkey coming in by the looks of it. Guys, we'll take some questions. If you fancy hitting those buttons, like and subscribe, please do take the time to do that. Ash says Saka or Palmer. Saka for me. We need to see how Palmer works under Maresca and where he plays. And Arsenal were just so much better in terms of a polished outlet than the dysfunction of Chelsea at the moment.
Yeah, I think I prefer Saka generally, but actually Palmer's fixtures over the next few are really good as well. I would still go Saka, but I think it's a very close call. Hi, Luke. Luke is asking Star, João Pedro or ESR? It's tough. I think I'd probably go João Pedro for the security of penalties. And I think
just
Brighton
for game week 2. But then game week 3, yeah. Although Smith Rowe at the first home game, Leicester. I think Fulham scored, didn't they? Fulham scored a couple against Leicester.
Yeah, but I can see Brighton scoring a couple as well against Man United. So it's tricky. On paper, the fixture is good for Smith Rowe, but I think penalties would probably swing it in João Pedro's direction for me.
This question isn't even worth answering. Obviously, you don't start your DM in any fixture. Rodgers, the attacking player, he could be playing Man City and Winks could be playing Ipswich, and I'd still say Rodgers. FPL Amateur, when is a sensible wildcard? Game week 4 and 6 are the 2 windows, but game week 12 is also, I think, an international break and one some might look at.
Yeah, that's right. Game week 4, 6, and 12 are the ones which are popular for fixture swings. I don't think there's a optimal window to wildcard though. So you can basically pick long-term picks and just wildcard whenever you feel as if your team needs it. So I don't think this has a correct answer as such.
Sally, don't do it. Next question.
Yeah, don't do it for sure. Yeah. Joel is asking, start Gabriel or Hall? I would go with Gabriel. I'm very confident that Bournemouth will score against Newcastle. Oh, yeah. So I would go with Gabriel. I'm very confident.
I would also go Gabriel, but yeah. Trossard's a non-event because and so is probably Martinelli, who I like at 7 million, but only one of them will always start on that left-hand side. And look, Gabby Jesus ain't getting into the team as the number 9. When Gabby Jesus gets minutes, it might even be on the left as well. There's too much competition on that left-hand side at Arsenal.
Who do I bench? Also TC activated. Luis Diaz home, Rashford away, ESR home. I would probably bench Rashford, I think, of those.
Could see reduced minutes. Brian says, since we can't have everyone this year because of pricing, what are Big Man's tips for rotating good assets? Go on, Big Man.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of people, for example, Brighton and Fulham, they rotate well. So I know people are rotating Pedro and ESR. I generally like having the flexibility of 8 attackers. I couldn't do it with my team because unfortunately I didn't have the funds, but I'm all for it. I like the idea. I don't necessarily buy this narrative that benching points is bad. I think it's actually good that you have 8 playable attackers. If you have 8 attackers, you can then rotate them as per your need. Even if it comes at the cost of the occasional bench points, it's perfectly fine. Adam is asking, use free transfer, got Saliba, Robinson, Porro, Barco, and Johnson. Porro's injured. What would you do? Uh, if Porro is injured, I would sell. Yeah, it's actually interesting. Who would you actually sell Porro for, uh, given his potential injury? If let's say we hear news that he's injured, would you look at Ruben Diaz?
I don't think I would. I don't
Yeah, I'm not sure he's
think
nailed.
so. I just think with Stones, Akanji, it's always going to be there's too much competition there. And Pep and Ake comes back in. I think Vardiol's still the one to spend the extra on, but I'd probably go down from Porro. I'd probably go to a Manoz.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think if someone doesn't have Robinson is still a good shout, even as a Porro replacement.
Yeah.
Are you buy Kanate for the fixtures?
How much is Kanate? I've not even looked.
I think it's 5 million. Let me check.
He's not 4.5, is he? He's not. You couldn't have gone. Could we? Without even knowing, we couldn't have gone Quansah to Kanate, could we? I didn't even check.
He's 5 million. He's 5. Okay. Yeah, he's 5. I just checked.
If he was 4.5, I might have actually bought him.
Yeah, I think he would have been really popular actually.
Yeah. To not look at that, I feel like that's really naive of me not to know that. Ben White or Gordon, always back the attacker, man.
Yeah, I'd go with Ben White as well. Start Gordon or ESR. I would go with ESR. Fixture is better. Home fixture.
I tell you what, Pope is a legit option. I don't know if he's I think he probably is the best. He was in my draft for a couple of weeks pre-season, Pope, and he went and got a 9-pointer. I think he is the best 5. But if you can spend the extra 0.5 on Raya, it's an upgrade.
Yeah. Start Murphy or Nkunku. I have Nkunku still, I think.
Just.
Yeah, we don't rate it. I mean, I personally don't. I still think Brighton will score. I don't think Gianni does either.
I just don't rate United. Just hate them. Fares, Gabriel to Gvardiol, tactical change. I don't know. If you're on Gabriel, I don't think you're moving him on for anyone.
Yeah, I mean, I can see why he's asking the question because Guardiola has the better fixture, but yeah, it's not worth the transfer. Solanke, Foden, and Munoz, or Isak, Gordon, and Guardiol. That's tough.
I'd probably say Newcastle have had their best fixture now. So this is part of a Newcastle double up in Isak Gordon. And even before they went to 10 men, they didn't look great. As much as I like double Newcastle attack, I've got them. I'd probably go for option 1.
As long as Foden is starting.
Start
Brennan or Nkunku.
Brennan's going to be bench, guys. Brennan's getting a 20-minute cameo. Brennan was terrible at Leicester. We're going to see Kulusevski start on the right.
I'm not sure whether he's going to get benched, but he's just like a more risk for minutes. FPL James, hi. Do you think you will change premiums a lot this year to try and get runs? Yes. I mean, I was mentioning the fact that I was looking at moving Saka on for Salah, for example, in Gameweek 4. So that's a classic example of it. I don't see the problem. Let's just jump on their fixtures run whenever the need is. Next question is from Mustafa. Best City mid to own.
Is it De Bruyne or Foden, big man?
I mean, eventually it will be Foden. Had that. I think eventually it will be Foden, even if they are the same price. But I'm not sure whether Foden will start this week. If he does, I think Foden is still the best choice.
Yeah, we'll just do the first half of that question. Udogie is legit. Like, honestly, guys, Udogie's average position, without checking it, but just watching the game live, was actually slightly better than Porro's. He's just as good. He comes with greater assist threat, lower goal threat. For 0.5 lower, we were asked earlier who would we sell Porro for? Probably Udogie.
Gianni, I mean, did you have Porro at any time in your draft? How was it watching that goal live? Did you sort of berate yourself for not owning him?
It was at my end as well. I was behind the goal. And I'd just seen Solanke miss a header, which from a Son cross. I'd just seen Son have a couple of really good runs with not finding his man on the cutback. And then to see Porro score. And at the time, it looked like a banker clean sheet fixture because Leicester were... I worked it out straight away. I went, that's a 15-point goal. I was sick. Honestly, it was horrendous.
At least you didn't have to face the 15-pointer, I guess.
Well, I was delighted when Vardy scored, not only because it wiped the clean sheet out, but because I genuinely wanted Leicester to get something from the game at that point when I saw my players weren't going to get points. And I was sat with the Leicester fans who were so into the fixture, first time back in the Premier League for a year. And yeah, when Vardy scored, I proper celebrated. Probably not actually great for my team because I had Son and Solanke, who after that, it was a non-event. It was all Leicester.
Swish is asking, in your opinion, who's the best single game week 2 punt? 95% sold Madison. It's an interesting one. I mean, if you're looking at defense, I think Rico Lewis is the one. If you're looking at a midfielder, it's more trickier. I still think, Eze is not exactly a punt, but I think Eze will go big this week. I really do. I think he was phenomenal against Brentford and was very unlucky not to get any points. So when you're looking at a punt, Brereton Diaz I guess he's fine. Madison is all right. Yeah. Who else, Johnny? Anyone else that I'm forgetting? Smith Rowe, perhaps, in midfield. Jota. These are the guys which stand out.
Yeah.
I think Jota is actually the best of the lot.
Jota's the only player I look at your team and go, oh, you need Jota in there.
Probably, but again, I went Bruno over him, and it does not really look like a smart decision anymore. Actually, the first game of the game week will be quite a pivotal one for me this week. I'll have Dunk, I'll have João Pedro, I'll have Bruno in all in one game. That's a lot.
That is a lot. You want that to be high scoring in a way, and Dunk to be involved. Watkins and Nkunku.
Dunk bullet header.
Yeah, guys, I like the Saka option, but I don't like Vardy. Vardy, honestly, talking to Leicester City season ticket holders, Vardy's not going to be starting every game this year, guys. They're going to buy a striker too. Vardy didn't even start every game in the Championship. Don't be blown away by that goal. Like, Vardy's not going to be necessarily a permanent fixture in this team.
Would you take a hit for Salah to Haaland this week? No chance. I mean, if you've made your team for game week 1, I'm sure you've given it a lot of thought, and there's a reason why you've given it a lot of thought. I'm sure you've spent the rest of the money that you've gained by having Salah over Haaland in the rest of your squad. So I won't destroy the upgrades that you've made and take hits just to get Haaland. You've just made your bet and you just sort of live with it now.
Yeah, I think you're right. Savio is one to monitor. See training ground pictures, press conference quotes. There's a chance, but I don't think he's an FPL buy. I think he's going to be a rotation risk. Guys, we've had all our time haul for the last one. Thanks, Thomas. We're going to be back on Friday. Can't wait for that. Friday, we will be doing like a pre-deadline stream, so come and say hello there as well. I think it'll be mid-afternoon. Like and subscribe on your way out. If you're just joining, go back and watch the last hour. It's been loads of fun. Big man, that's been a fun hour. I'll look forward to our regular chats on Wednesdays. And yeah, we'll speak soon. So guys, take care, go well, and we'll see you next time.